All right, good morning, Mike Watkins, HurricaneTrack.com and HurricaneAnalytics.com. A quick update on Dorian. I'm going to get to more of this and later in the day as I have a chance to kind of go through the reconnaissance data and all the information that's going to come in with new model guidance. But right now, Dorian is the strongest hurricane ever observed in the Bahamas. Winds are up to 180 miles per hour, making it an extremely dangerous Category 5 hurricane. And reconnaissance currently in the eye, and since the advisory just came out, estimates that pressures may be down even a little bit more, down to what would be an historic 909 millibars. So you can see from this satellite image, Dorian has continued to maintain its structure. We have not seen any real fluctuations down in intensity, only up. Not going to go into all the meteorological reasons that it's happening, but it's happening, and the folks in the Northwest Bahamas, Abaco, Grand Bahama in particular, are going to have a very long Labor Day weekend ahead of them, unfortunately, and not in a good way. You can see that the storm essentially has been continuing to move almost due west. That's been going on for about the last 24 hours or so, at least in the last 18. What that implies is the angle of approach to the southeast Florida coast means that hurricane watches need to be issued, and they are from Deerfield Beach northward. There are also tropical storm watch from Golden Beach northward to Deerfield Beach, and the rest of the east coast of Florida should be prepared for some sort of watches later on today. And I would not be at all surprised to see tropical storm warnings and hurricane watches be issued for the Miami-Dade Broward line northward in the next advisory. The only reason really not tropical storm warnings right now is because of the timing, but I think that'll be upgraded soon. So the question now becomes, what's the next step? What do we do? So let's go to our handy wind speed probabilities. These are the probabilities for 120 hours from now of at least 50 knot storm winds, essentially meaning that's when the power goes out, that's when you start to see some damage done. I'd show the tropical storm force winds, but the whole state's covered in that. But the point here is there's at least a 40 to 50% chance here that we'll observe at least 50 knot or about 60 mile per hour winds here in Broward County, and the probability goes down, but it is not zero south of there throughout Miami-Dade County. This means essentially our time to get prepared is today. We have not put our shutters up yet. I've been holding off on that, kind of holding on to the forecast track, turning this a little bit later or earlier than I thought, than we're seeing now. But after this afternoon, if there's not some tectonic shift in the new models that are coming out in the next couple hours, I'm going to be spending the rest of the day kind of making sure that those things are done and everything's brought in, because today is our last day to prepare. Tomorrow, we'll see tropical storm force winds start to come in bands as they kind of spiral into the area, and then depending on the ultimate track of the storm, we'll either have to go ahead and expect hurricane winds or not sure yet. But let's focus on what we know right now, which is that we're probably going to deal with at least tropical storm force winds here, and we should be prepared today. So let's then go to this map. This is a map of the wind radii of the storm based on just the latest advisory. So this just came out a minute ago. I'm going to switch colors here. So from basically here on over, anything on the right of that line is based on the forecast track, we're going to experience tropical storm force winds. So that's basically Miami all the way up the state. And this is within the next 72 hours. And then if you look at the map, notice that here in Palm Beach County, the radius of hurricane force winds is just off the coast, and that's in 48 hours. So any minor shift to the south here with the track, or if the hurricane goes just a little bit further west than it's currently forecast to go, then you just have to extrapolate that down. And that is why we have a hurricane watch essentially from Deerfield. Let me clear this out again. That's a little confusing. Don't want to. There we go. Oh, wait. I know how to. There's that. All right. So from essentially Deerfield, which is around here, all on the way up, this is now a hurricane watch and tropical storm warning. From here down, that's a tropical storm watch for now. But again, you can see, I mean, you know, odds are pretty good that we'll have to deal with at least something. Tropical storm force winds are stronger. So if we look at the map, this is the current model map. Let me clear that out. That just, again, was updated. Now, the current position of the storm at this time was out here just east of Marsh Harbor and Abaco. The forecast track is essentially going to take it this way. Now, the break point that I've been observing, and I think just to pay attention to here, is around Freeport, Grand Bahama. If the storm stays on the current track and either tracks over or near Freeport, that suggests to me that we're going to need to prepare for a hurricane anywhere from Fort Lauderdale north from Fort Lauderdale. If we're able to get the storm to make the turn to the right of Freeport, although it wouldn't be great for Grand Bahama, and that's an understatement of the century because, again, this is a ferocious hurricane and nothing to goof around with. But if the turn comes earlier, as the models are suggesting here, that's better news for us, but not great news because we know we're going to get tropical storm force winds. So this is the kind of delimiter. This is the break point that we need to pay attention to, I think. If we see a storm that either parallels or even stays south of Grand Bahama, that means we should be preparing for a hurricane. If it is able to get north of Grand Bahama over the next 12 to 24 hours, that's better news for us, but certainly not great news. And then from there, we'll need to pay attention to see how close to the Florida East Coast it gets. From there, the general trek is right in the middle of these models, but again, that can change. So we're going to be watching this very closely. I'm going to be watching this closely today. I'm sure everyone in South Florida is too. Worth noting, I just went to BJ's and topped off on gas. Nobody's getting gas right now. Check out, there's an app called Gas Buddy that you can download. You can look up stations near you and gives you an indicator of whether or not they have gas or not, and how long ago somebody was there. It's free, doesn't cost anything. Might as well do it. I mean, just to find out whether or not you're going to waste your time in going to places that don't have gas or not, you can get that done now. I'm going to guess that you've got a few hours from here to get any last-minute supplies done before the rush hits. I would imagine this afternoon, once a hurricane warning goes up for part of our area, mass panic will ensue, and certainly people are probably just not necessarily paying attention right now because it's Labor Day weekend, and yesterday it was people were sounding the all clear. We still don't know. A direct landfall here in southeast Florida is not impossible, and in fact, it's one of the possibilities. Many of the ensemble models overnight still show a direct landfall somewhere in here, and this is a tiny storm. Any little change in the steering environment could cause it to run a little bit west before it turns. And even if it turns there, right, like even if it turns right off the coast, now we're talking about hurricane force winds in a swath like this, as opposed to keeping them just offshore as the current forecast says. So at this point, I'm assuming I'm preparing for a hurricane. Certainly would think that at this point you would too, if you're in southeast Florida. If not, if you're further north, time is going to be there, and certainly if we've got power, we'll continue to update here over the next several days. But for now, it's southeast Florida time to prepare. Certainly if you're in Grand Bahama or Abaco, you should not be watching this. You should already be ready to go and have everything ready to deal with the hurricane of historic force. And unfortunately, there's no specific or indirect signs or anything that suggests that it will weaken significantly over the next couple of days, other than it may interact a little bit with the Bahamas itself. But the environment is favorable as you can get, and that's how we have the strongest hurricane ever observed in the Bahamas right now on their doorstep. So Mike Watkins, HurricaneTrack.com, HurricaneAnalytics.com. We'll have another update around 3 p.m. once the new model guidance comes in and we know more.